Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com, and this video is not really going to have any particular ties to IT or music education, but I want to talk about what's kind of been in the news with YouTube and the FTC lately, and that is the ruling against Google/YouTube concerning children defined as kids that are under the age of 13 and collecting of information and ads and all that good stuff. I'm not going to go into a lot of details about the particular case. It's pretty easy to find some resources online and such, nor am I going to go into a lot of detail about the COPPA rule. But what I wanted to focus on is how this is going to affect this channel. I do want to give a little bit of context on the COPPA rule, though. It's been around for a while. I think it came out, it was signed into law, I think in 1998, maybe, don't quote me on that, and then a couple of years later it became effective. And I actually had to deal with it once before with my content, not YouTube content, but content on the web. Now I wasn't like sued by the FTC or anything, but in some of the early iterations of eddiejennings.net, I had a forum. I think I was using, what was it? PHPBB was the software at the time I was using, and now I wasn't too far removed from high school. I was still either in undergrad or was about to graduate, and so there were siblings of friends of mine that were younger siblings and were coming to the end of their high school age, and so on my forum, I wanted, pretty much anyone to be able to chat about the topics at hand. But what I had to do on the forum was have a little privacy notice that says this forum is intended for, I think I put age 15 and older, because the COPPA rule would have applied as far as information privacy and such. And at the time I didn't have the resources to really govern that. I'm just a kid nearing the end of college wanting to try to do a forum, and so that's how I dealt with that. I helped keep the subject matter on the forums for that late teen and older age group to make sure that I've complied, and that's been years and years and years. And so some folks are kind of acting like this is a new thing, and it's not. From what I understand, and take that for what it's worth, it is how I understand things. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not super knowledgeable about the case with YouTube and the complaint with the FTC, but basically what I understand is content that was directly meant for kids, YouTube collected information for advertisement and such, and that's a problem. That is not allowed per the COPPA rule, and YouTube got called out on it and got smacked down with a fine and all that good stuff. And so the way YouTube has responded to how to deal with this is the burden of proof has been put on the content creators, as far as you must mark your videos as either for directed to kids or not directed to kids. And I can the need to make that marking, personally, I don't think is unreasonable. I can see that happening. However, there are a couple of problems with it that I'm going to go into and talk about how it relates to my channel. Number one is the definition of content directed at kids. This is something that YouTube, I don't think, has much control over. This is pretty much coming from the FTC, and the problem there is, and this I have done a bit of research on, and again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a layman reading the law and trying to interpret it, which, without going into a philosophical discussion about it, I think that's kind of an important test as far as laws, because if the people that they apply to that can never understand, is that law truly a written valid thing. But anyway, that's outside the scope of the conversation. But the language of the law is written as such, as far as this the guidelines, because of course laws like this never have anything that's real specific, right? We want to keep this as wide as possible. And the guidelines for determining if content is directed at kids is a bit vague. And it's a bit vague in the fact that that you have a pretty wide interpretation of if something is directed at a kid. And this goes to my content. My IT stuff, not really. I don't make any efforts to make that necessarily kid friendly, as far as, hey kid, this is directed for you, how to be a systems administrator, how to work with PowerShell, how to start a KVM lab, that kind of thing. My music content could probably be interpreted as that, because a lot of the stuff that I have put up comes from the music educator side of me, and that's some of the stuff about music theory. Even though I'm pretty sure in my videos I don't make those videos in a way that is explicitly directed at kids. And again, kids in this context is age under 13. Granted, at the same time, I don't go out of my way to make my music education like videos something that a kid would not want to watch. And so one of the problems that folks that do make a living doing this on YouTube, I don't. One day I might be able to monetize. If I do, yay! I've won YouTube. No, I'm kidding. But for folks that do make their living making content, and in particular those that make a living making good content for kids and such, this has some implications which I'll get into in a minute. One of the big concerns from the law perspective that folks have is there does not appear in the current iteration of the rules, because the COPPA stuff gets reviewed, I think, supposedly once a decade, and it's about due for the next review. Hence, so the hubbub about it is there doesn't seem to be much of a distinction between child-directed content and child-attractive content. And from what I understand, the idea behind those is your child-directed content is, all right, this is explicitly made for kids. Like we want kids watching it, such as some early childhood education kind of stuff. Teaching kids how to count, teaching kids some basics of reading and such. That's clearly directed toward young kids. Then you'll have content of me, for example. Let's say that I play some saxophone music, and this is say this is a project I might do one day is go through the Fairling 48 famous studies for saxophone and just play them all. Start at Etude 1, make my YouTube video, publish it, go all the way through the etudes. Well, that content is not explicitly meant to be directed to an audience of under age 13. However, I could reasonably see a middle school band kid who's their band director has told them, hey, go out on the internet or whatever and look for people that play your instrument, because as music educators, we all know that one of the best ways to teach kids about tone is say, listen to these people that play really well and try to emulate their tone. Listen to how warm the tone is, or how bright the tone is for this particular situation. Listen to how these instruments blend together, on and on and on. Well, in that context, I could see, a sixth grade kid that's 11 years old going out on YouTube and maybe finding my video of me playing Fairling Etude number 1 on one of my saxophones and go, hey, and I'm assuming I played the etude well. Hey, this Eddie Jennings guy has a pretty decent tone on saxophone. Maybe I should try to sound like him. Well, that's content that is attractive to a child because it's music. What kid on the planet doesn't like music? Of course, not all kids like all music, but you see the difference there. It's content that I've made that's not explicitly directed toward kids that's going to be potentially consumed by kids. And from what I understand with COPPA, there isn't a clear distinction of is my video about playing the first Fairling Etude on a saxophone, is that child-directed content? So, in my opinion, there needs to be some clarity with that, and that's a general opinion I have with any kind of law, especially if there's some significant punishments that go with it, is you need to have some clarity. And from what I understand from folks that study law and such, kind of like the art of law is just in contracts and such, just trying to find clarity. So getting into the second part of this, so part one is there's potential confusion between child-directed content or content that is attractive to children. The second part of this, as far as the marking of your videos as child-directed and not child-directed, comes as far as how YouTube treats them. So I'm for lack of a better phrase, I'm going to call standard video. So a standard video, such as like the last one I did on PowerShell, where I talk about using the git commandlet and such. That video I have marked is not directed for kids and such. That video, people can make comments on it. If I wanted to, I could configure like the end page of videos. I haven't got into that much yet with YouTube. I simply don't have the time right now to learn it. You can do stuff with cards with those videos. When you subscribe to my channel, which you should, by the way. Anyway, I can't help the shameless self-plug there. But when you subscribe to my channel, you can click the little bell to be notified of when other videos are uploaded. Well, if I upload another PowerShell video and dive into another commandlet and such, and you subscribe to my channel, you'll get a little notification that, hey, Eddie Jennings has made another video. Also, I believe within your own YouTube account, you can take that video and save it to like a little playlist and such, right? Those particular features are important to me, simply because I want to engage in the conversation about whatever topic there is. One of the themes I kind of hammer home in my videos is that I'm not the be-all, end-all of all of this knowledge, and I want to discuss these things with people, either A, improve myself, or B, maybe you haven't thought of whatever the thing is that I'm talking about in the way that I've talked about. Perhaps it might give you another perspective on something. And to reach that audience, I rely on my videos being suggested by YouTube, as folks watch them and seem to enjoy the content and click like on the videos. YouTube's algorithm is more likely to show my videos in a suggested videos list if you're looking at similar content. And then also for my subscribers themselves, since you've been kind enough to subscribe to my channel, I want you to be aware of when I make new stuff, right? The other side of that is having advertisements. Now, right now, my channel is not in a position to be able to do monetization I need. I think the current standards now are 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time over the course of a year, and I'm not anywhere near those numbers, nor do I expect to be. One day, if I am, great. I consider that a bonus. But at that point, I could potentially earn some money off of the advertisements and such there. So how that's affected if I have a video that's marked as directed for kids. All of the aforementioned features that I just talked about, comments, being able to have the end screens, having videos suggested, my subscribers, when they subscribe, getting a notification about the new video, all of that goes away. Now, the curious thing about that is, and this is just, I'm not a dev at YouTube. I don't know how the platform is built. I have no idea how their algorithms and such work. But I'm curious to see from the perspective of COPPA, which is you do not need to collect any information from kids under 13, right? But for a kid that is 13 or older that has subscribed to my channel, which I would frankly be surprised if they do, because I do so much IT stuff. I imagine that's probably not that interesting to younger kids. But let's say that you have a collegiate kid which I know for a fact. I've interacted with a couple with the music theory stuff. If I have to mark that video as directed at kids because of some ambiguities in the law as far as that difference between child-directed content and child-attractive content, if I'm required to mark that as a video for kids, then how does the collegiate student that would probably have the most direct benefit from some of my music theory videos, how would they be notified about a new video? They wouldn't. They would have to actively, go sign into YouTube and click their subscribe channels to see that I've made another video about it, which is doable. But think about from a user perspective. I mean, you yourself probably rely on email notifications and various things for various other services versus explicitly logging into every service that you use to see what's new. So there's a problem there. Another problem with having that video marked as directed for kids is that it disables any commenting feature. Well, from the perspective of an educator, conversation is all about what is one of our primary methods of teaching and learning and such. And so if I have this video that could be interpreted as directed for kids because it has music content and kids might be attracted to music content, then I can't have a conversation with the viewers. If they ask me a question, hey Eddie, you did this music theory video about secondary dominance, and I don't quite get it. I have a particular question about this. They wouldn't be able to comment that on the video and me be able to respond. And that, from an education perspective, is a problem. That for me defeats the whole purpose of me being able to or me being using the YouTube platform as a method of being able to share content and teach, even though the person that would be being affected by this is well over the COPPA age, for lack of a better phrase there. Right, so those particular restrictions that are posed by YouTube when you mark a video as directed for kids, that's a problem, and I fail to see how restricting those particular things helps protect the child that has stumbled upon the video. Now you can make the argument of, well, what if the content is offensive and such, or not content, but the comments and such would be offensive to a child under age 13? Well, per the YouTube terms of service, I'm pretty sure you're technically not allowed to consume the content unless you're over age 13. And the other aspect of that is this kind of gets into some parenting and such, as far as is the job of YouTube that to be the job of a parent, keeping track of what their kids and such are watching. Now, that being said, I as the content creator and the controller of my channel, I believe I've made it pretty clear that the whole point of discussion in my channel should be to enlighten folks and teach, share, learn, all that good stuff. And I myself would take some action if I have a person that has commented on my channel that is causing problems for folks. I would try to deal with that. Now, granted, if my channel explodes, I'll probably have to employ some other methods of doing that. But it seems like taking off these things, I don't quite see how this is 100% fail-safe to really achieve what COPPA wants. But it has negative effects on content creators and their ability to communicate with their community. So just one thought there. The other piece, as far as the advertisement, I can see where that effectively would have to be turned off. Just knowing a little bit about how advertising works and the information that has to be collected for it. And then for me in particular, that doesn't really have an effect on me, as far as I'm not relying on advertising revenue to make a living and such. But for folks that do have that for content, I'm not sure what their solution is. And if you think about it, I understand that COPPA is the Children's Online Privacy and Protection Act, but how are other content creators on the internet able to make money off of ad revenue for stuff directed at kids, yet be in compliance with COPPA? I know it has to happen, otherwise this would be a major thing on the entire internet. So I'm not quite sure what the solution there is. But getting back to the point, having to mark the video as for kids or not for kids, you see some of the, in my opinion, short-sightedness of what marking a video for kids does. So the question becomes, all right, since there's a gray area, just mark your video as not for kids. Okay, the problem there. And this comes, you can ironically, you can go on YouTube and find this. But when the FTC announced this, they had some of their folks take some questions and add explanation and such. And basically, the potential penalty is per video that's violating. And by violating, I mean it is a video that the FTC has determined to be child-directed content, but you, as a content creator on YouTube, did not explicitly mark this as child-directed content. You marked it as not child-directed content. The penalty for that violation per video is a little over $42,000. That's a relatively stiff penalty. And the argument there, sometimes folks go, oh well, you're so small, you'll not be noticed by the FTC. I don't really buy that, because law and regulation is law and regulation, and I would not put it past the FTC to, just like how you had a lot of this happening in the mid 90s, early 2000s with music sharing services and such. Folks were made examples of then. And so I could totally see me, as a person that has uploaded, I think, like 48 or 49 videos, whatever my count is right now, having one that there's a disagreement about how it's labeled. I did not explicitly label my advanced music theory when I was talking about descending intervals. I did not mark that for kids. The FTC thinking that this is a content directed for kids, you're in violation, here's your $42,000 fine. I would be done in many ways with that. That single fine is most of an annual salary that I make as a systems administrator. So therein lies the problem of not having that clear definition of child-directed content and child-attractive content. Since there is such a stiff penalty behind that, the chilling effect comes on, and you have an incentive of being overprotective of your videos, and if there is a chance of them being interpreted as child-directed, especially since there's no clear definition of what's considered actually directed for children versus what's attractive for children, then you would start marking pretty much many of your videos that have a potential of being interpreted as such as child-directed, which that would wreck your ability to grow your channel and such, because now your subscribers would not be able to get notifications. You wouldn't have comments available for you to get feedback from your viewers about your content. You would lose the ability to do the in-screen cards and such to try to get viewers to watch and discover some of your other content. And that in itself is, in my opinion, a pretty big problem that seems like someone didn't quite think that through, because I would like to think that the people at the FTC and YouTube are fairly intelligent people and they're able to think through consequences, but it just seems like that was something that was missed. So as far as my own videos and content, here's how this will affect me. I don't want to abandon the music education part of what I do, even though I think the majority of my videos are IT based, because that's what I deal in and day out with life. I'm not a middle school band director anymore, and so I'm not as in touch with music education and music topics. But there are times where I still want to make that content, but I have to weigh if it's worth the risk of making this content, knowing that I'm not explicitly directing the content for kids under the age of 13, but knowing that there's a chance of the FTC interpreting my content as being directed at kids under the age of 13, me marking it as not, being liable for a potential $42K penalty per video. I'm not sure if that's worth the risk, and I hate that, because that boils my blood as an educator, because as any educator, you want to teach people. And quite frankly, a lot of educators, they don't care what the age of person is. You just want to teach. You want people to learn, even though, you might be directing your topic at high school age kids or college age kids. There may be the middle school kid that's really digging whatever it is you talk about, and they're going to consume. And the chilling effect of the potential penalty of mislabeling a video, even though from the human perspective the video is not mislabeled, you're not intending for that, but another human being, someone in the FTC, thinks that the content is directed for kids. That's a pretty major chilling effect. So I think what I'm going to do as far as this channel, I'll keep making some IT content, because I really think that it would be a stretch to interpret me talking about Linux and PowerShell and virtualization and such as content clearly directed for kids. But of course, kids are now more interested kind of in IT than ever, so that might become a problem. I will probably limit the education content that I do to content that is specifically kind of geared toward educators, like the last video I did on that, talking about the young educator and things to do in your classroom. And I'm probably going to kind of wait and see from other content creators what's happening to them. And I really kind of hate taking that approach, but I can't take on that liability risk with my music content and potentially be subject to fines and such. And I'm not paranoid, but at the same time, I don't subscribe to the idea of you're so small in your scope, you'll be ignored. You can't take that risk, or at least for me, I am too risk averse to be able to take that. So what to expect from me going forward? More IT content, less music-like content until I kind of see how the landscape works, because this all goes down in January of 2020. And so I think for my own legal and financial well-being, I'll probably be doing more IT content right now, and then when January comes and we see what the landscape looks like, I might start doing some more music content. So my message to you, my subscribers, which thank you for watching my videos as subscribers, and for my and for non-subscribers out there that have happened upon this, thank you for taking the time to watch. Know that I do intend to get back to making some music and music education based content, but know that I'm going to tread lightly in these troubled waters to make sure it's safe for me to be able to do that. If you're curious, the FTC is currently taking comments up until I think December 9th is the last day for taking comments on the current action and the current review of COPPA rules and such. Don't quote me on the date. I'm just thinking about off the top of my head. I'll put a link in the description of this video to the site where you can put a comment into the FTC. I did that myself in my comment, which I recommend you be pretty respectful with your comments and such, because remember, humans are going to be reading these, and humans that don't necessarily have have a say in what these laws are probably are some of the folks that will first be going through these comments, and I would suggest trying to not make them have a bad day. What I put in my comment was, just paraphrase, because it's been about a week or so since I wrote the comment, was I understand the intention and point of COPPA, and I also understand what occurred with YouTube and Google as far as the collecting of information on kids, in particular for ads. It was wrong, but the proposed rules and such as they stand have that gray area between child directed and child attractive, and for folks that would fall in that gray area, we need some clarity on the difference between the two, so we know how to tailor our content properly. I'm also going to put a link to a change.org petition. I usually don't participate in these much, but much of the petition echoes what I've talked to you about, especially with that difference between child-directed and child-attractive content. And so I felt it was worthwhile for me to sign that. So if this is something that you find yourself a bit passionate about, I encourage you to read that petition, and if you agree with it, sign it. I'll put the links in the description. So in conclusion, this is nice and formal, right? In conclusion, my channel is not going to go away. You're just going to see a little bit more IT content than music and music ed content for the time being. But the music ed content isn't dead. If it comes to where it's very clear that anything remotely related that could be interpreted as directed for kids, I have to mark it as for kids, so be it. I'll do it, and hopefully folks will find it. But I still want to make the content available for folks that can find it, that can find some use out of it. So as always, thank you for your time. I do encourage you to subscribe to the channel, click the bell to hopefully get notifications about new videos, and I'll see you the next time.